Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our fourth Webinar Wednesday, a part of the Webinar Wednesday series celebrating DEAM. Our webinar today is all about workplace culture and employee engagement. I'd like to very quickly let everyone know that we will be utilizing the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. So if you have a question, we will get to it at the end. Just go ahead and pop it in there, and Justin and Arnaldo we'll take care of it and save it for later. My name is Leanne Rexford. I am the Director of Partner Relations and obviously an expert with Zoom. For those of you who are new partners of ours, I want to let you know that the ABLE Trust was created by the Florida Legislature in 1990 as the direct support organization for vocational rehabilitation. Since our establishment, our work has focused on increasing opportunities for Floridians with disabilities to join the workforce. Looking forward to the next 30 years and beyond, the ABLE Trust is repositioning our work on disability employment by being the thought leader for workforce disability inclusion. Our plan consists of three major strategic priorities: research, outreach, and capacity building. As the thought leader, we share data, not just economic data, but evidence-based research and best practices. This better equips us to meet stakeholders where they're at, and in turn, raise awareness, make connections, and build collaborations between employers, educators, career service providers, elected officials, community leaders, and more. It really does take a village. Research shows about one out of 4 individuals in the world has at least one disability. All individuals will likely experience living with a disability at some point throughout their life, be it temporary, like a broken arm, situational, like not being able to hear your presenter on a webinar, or permanent, like autism. Also, more than 70% of disabilities are invisible: learning disabilities, health conditions, depression, etc. Keeping that statistic in mind, the ABLE Trust is disability neutral. Our support of disability inclusion in the workplace extends to all levels, from entry-level positions all the way up to the C-suite. The folks you're seeing on your screen right now are, among others, there is an ICU nurse that won Rookie of the Year their first year on the floor. There is a nonprofit executive. There is a college professor and a journalist and an entrepreneur that owns 2 different ice cream shops. The sky is literally the limit for the population we serve. In fact, I myself have an invisible disability. I am a proud type 1 diabetic and have been since I was 6 years old. To help manage my day-to-day, I have a certified diabetic alert dog, and her name is Willow. I would also like to publicly acknowledge that without my local VR counselor, Ketsia, in Area 3, I would not have Willow. I am the first VR consumer in the state of Florida to receive a diabetic alert dog, and I am so grateful that Ketsia she went to bat for me. She really fought on my behalf because she knew the significance that Willow would make in my life and keep me employed for a long time. So it goes without saying, but our VR partners really are changing lives every single day. So I have some more good news for you. The world of disability employment is not all doom and gloom. The number of Floridians with disability who are employed continues to increase each year. From 2017 to 2021, that increase was nearly 20%. You may have read recently about businesses targeting hidden talent as they try to reach their hiring goals, and persons with disabilities are one of the key groups on which they focus their searches. We are already seeing an increase in the employment of persons with disabilities as business and industry leaders look to them to help fill their workforce shortages. Continuing that momentum is crucial, and October is the perfect time of year to increase awareness on disability employment opportunities. The ABLE Trust works year-round on promoting disability employment, but this important time in October gives us a unique opportunity to work with partners around the state to shine a light on the contributions Floridians with disabilities make to the workforce. And we would be remiss if we did not thank our outstanding slate of Disability Employment Awareness Month sponsors. Webinar Wednesdays is a big part of how we celebrate DEAM, and we couldn't do it without each and every one of them. And at this time, I would like to welcome Ms. Debbie Savage from Publix to say a few words and to introduce our first panelist. Debbie, you're muted. It's not just me.
All right. Sorry about that. Second. Thank you so much for having me here today to represent Publix. DEAM is so important to Publix as we pride ourselves on a diverse workforce. For the last 4 years, I've had the opportunity to represent Publix as an employer of choice for over 1,000 candidates of different abilities via a virtual platform throughout the month of October. We also work with hundreds of organizations throughout our footprint to engage with candidates about working from Publix, whether it's an entry-level position or up through our management and our organization, because we pride ourselves on a promote from within culture. The sky's the limit at Publix. So let's get to the reasons you're here today. This webinar was designed to be different. It's a peer-to-peer conversation. All providers in Florida are facing similar challenges with their own workplace culture and employee engagement. So let this be an opportunity to pick and choose some of the best practices from one another. First up, we have Ms. Carrie Bates, the president and CEO of the ARC in Jacksonville. Carrie is here to share the steps she and her team are taking to retain their talent. Take it away, Carrie.
Thank you, and thank you, Debbie, and thanks, Leanne and the Able Trust for hosting this. I'll share quickly a little bit about me because it really ties into what we're talking about. Like many of you, I would say that at several junctures in my life that were very critical, there were people who believed in me. And I think we all know, working with people with disabilities, that the people we support need people who believe in them. And our staff is no different. And that's something I have to constantly remind myself of. Just real fast, I went to UCF both for my undergrad and graduate. Go Knights. We almost beat Oklahoma on Saturday. If you watched that game, I was there. It was amazing. I was in hospital administration for about 13 years. And then I had the opportunity to make a career change after my daughter was born, who has a disability. It's not one that we serve at the ARC, but it is a visible disability. And honestly, I took the opportunity and I've never looked back. I think part of the wonderful thing about the organizations that most of us work in is that we are of a size that we can be fairly agile. Unlike when I was in hospital administration, it can be hard at times to connect with different teams and really difficult to shift culture. It truly is like moving, like cruise ships at times, where in our organizations, I feel like there are little things we can do that can have big impacts. And kind of what Debbie alluded to, I'm going to just share some things. Almost none of them, I would say, are my original ideas. I've gotten it from forums like this, where I just share and learn, and some of the things apply to my organization and some don't. So I'm just going to throw out some things and hope that there's a few takeaways. One of my favorite bosses used to always say, leadership is hard. And it was a really simple statement, but anytime things would kind of go sideways, she would always really slowly say, leadership is hard. And I constantly say that to myself at times. And I would say for all of us, I think it is especially hard in recent years. The expectations of us and our teams have really radically changed since 2020. And I'm no expert, but I love having these conversations. I always leave feeling inspired and have some takeaways and kind of re-energized. So thanks again to Able for giving us all this opportunity. I have tried to be intentional about how I invest in my team and culture, because it honestly doesn't really come naturally to me. I'm more old school, probably like many of you, and really just kind of focus on getting the work done. And I do find myself to be pretty mission focused and client focused. And that means I don't always think of employees as often as I should have. So when I first came to this organization 2 years ago, I really thought about how I create an environment that is responsive to today's employees' expectations. And those expectations are heavy, I think, right now. And to be honest, it's a lot of little things. I'm going to share 3 things that I've done, mostly borrowed from my peers, and I'm still learning and hoping to really, make a difference in my organization every day. I would say one of the first things I did when I came in, which is probably the most obvious, when I connected to my senior leadership team, I did start with a few leadership books, and it made a lot of people roll their eyes, people who'd been here a long time, but I felt like it was a really deliberate way to get to know people. And we started doing, and I stole this from a TED Talk. If you haven't heard, Christopher Littlefield is a great speaker. He does a TED Talk on beyond thank you and appreciation. And he always says, make sure you share your wins, no matter how big or small. So I really have made an effort to do that in a lot of meetings, kind of like an icebreaker. And that's helped not only celebrate those wins, but also just share information. And then 2 things we did with the senior leadership team right away. I had the team write a leadership charter. What is our commitment to each other? And I went through a deliberate exercise that I borrowed from someone that I'm happy to share. And I do try to draw people back to that at times when we run into areas of tension or disagreement, is kind of staying focused on what have we agreed, how have we agreed to treat each other. And then I put a lot of thought on paper into what are my expectations of our senior leaders. And that's really kept me grounded in when I get frustrated or really trying to raise the bar, what truly are the things that matter the most, and kind of bringing it back to that. The second thing, kind of a spinoff of that, I did start an emerging leaders group about a year ago that brings together our frontline leaders and those with leadership potential. I think, like many of you, we have a lot of people really nearing retirement and have kind of an urgent need to build our bench, and really training and retaining people who are eager to take on leadership roles, but maybe not quite ready, and we might need them to be ready sooner. Or maybe we know it's going to be a few years and I want to keep them engaged. And we've done a few different things in that group. We've done Myers-Briggs, and I had one of our staff that's actually facilitated Myers-Briggs trainings, has done a lot of different things to help people understand the differences among us. And then I have focused heavily on this group and really tying it back to our mission. I feel like in some ways, the more we evolve as an organization, the further we get away from our history. And as a disability services organization, that history is really important. So we read a book called 3 Fields. It's a great book, specifically about intellectual disabilities in Florida and the history, and really focused on what the trailblazers before us have accomplished and how far we have to go. And then just recently, I borrowed this idea from the Florida Theater here in Jacksonville. I invited all of our board members to come in and speak and share their leadership story. And it kind of is like a free way to engage our board members. And that's worked out really well. We just had the first one last week, and I got amazing responses. The board members seem to like it, and the team likes it as well. And lastly, and this is really something I kind of alluded to earlier, that this doesn't come naturally to me, but I have really, inspired by the TED Talk I mentioned, Christopher Littlefield made an effort to really recognize our employees in different ways, in constant ways, and giving out awards all the time for different things. When I see someone doing something good or hear about someone doing something good, try to recognize them for that, just to reinforce it. And it's not something I do naturally, but it's something that I know is important. And when I do it, I try to be authentic and meaningful. So that concludes my talks, and I think I am kicking it over to Jim. Is that right, Leanne? Okay.
All right, thank you, Carrie. Wow, I wrote a couple of things down that you just said that really inspired me. My name is Jim Atkinson. I am the Chief Executive Officer of Progressive Abilities Support Services. I want to take a quick second to thank Leanne. Thank you so much for having us here today. This is such a cool honor. And I also want to thank, well, our whole team, because we kind of built this culture together, right? And specifically to thank a couple of people who helped me figure out my words today. So thank you to Lisa Michelle Fusco, and thank you to Lisa Parlapiano. I think they're both listening in, I hope. Thank you both so much. So as I get started, I just cannot tell you how grateful I am to be in the position that I'm in, and to work with the people I work with, And I'm excited to tell you a little bit about what makes us us and why we think that we have a pretty cool culture. So I'm going to start off super theoretical. Because we believe that our philosophy has a ton to do with our success and has a ton to do with our culture. And it's helped us build a team that we're incredibly proud of. So first of all, and Carrie kind of mentioned this with agility, we're aware that in this space, there's constant dynamic change. We have to acknowledge and understand that. We don't know half of anything yet. That's it. And that sounds, kind of like a little aside, a little quip. That is one of our tenets of our philosophy. We don't know half of anything yet. We're still learning. We're still growing. And I think, putting that first and foremost keeps us wanting to grow, learn, understand where we're lacking. It helps us be self-aware. And one of my favorite quotes is to be curious and not judgmental. And in all that we do, in the space that we're in the work that we do, I've never been part of a business before. I've never run an organization. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. But I want to be curious. I want to learn as I go, and I want to improve for the people that we serve and for the people that are on my team, that are on our team. So in general, we don't try to fit you into our system, whether this is an employee or a person we serve. We want to fit into yours. We want to come to you. So the first ingredient in what we kind of think of our special sauce is authenticity. I think Carrie mentioned this as well. We're passionate about this work. We are genuine in wanting to make a world and wanting to make this world a more inclusive place. We walk the walk. We try to walk the walk in all of our hiring practices, in the way that we accommodate our team, in the way that we speak, in the way that we celebrate, not just the people we serve, but each other. The people we serve are the reason each of us is here, and we don't want to lose sight of that, excuse me, and that gives us a common purpose. So next, I want to talk just a little bit about respect and humility. And I love what Carrie mentioned about all of these ideas coming from somewhere else being borrowed. I totally agree. I don't think there's one thing that we're going to talk about today that, that I came up with or that anyone on our team came up with out of thin air. These are all things we learned and we grew together. And so no one on our team is less important than anyone else. I am super aware of how lucky I am to be in this position. I could just as easily be in any other position in the company, and many people on our team could just as easily, if not all, could be in my position. This keeps us, humble. It keeps our team empowered. We won't ask anyone to do anything that we wouldn't do ourselves. We are ultimately here to serve others. And I think that's true, not just of the people that we work with, but my teammates as well. Humility, our goal is to make real change in the world, not to be the most recognized company. We want to put the collective success of this community ahead of our personal recognition. And a lot of times that respect and humility comes out in the language we use. It's the most prominent tool we have in showing respect and doing our darndest to be humble. Innovation and creativity. We encourage fearless creativity. We want to empower employees with specific skill sets to help us grow. We want to create opportunities for brainstorming. We want to remain curious in the pursuit. There's curiosity again in the pursuit of new ideas. Our team knows my story, and I think we all have a story that brought us to this world. My first job in this world was in a sheltered work environment. Now everything we do is community-based employment. This came from a curiosity of how we might be able to do it differently and maybe a little bit better. So with all of those things, that's all super, super theoretical. And I promise I'm going to get more material, more concrete, more tangible. A lot of what we've talked about so far is hard to quantify, but these next things I don't think are. And they are on the back of many of those philosophies, many of those theories that we've already mentioned. So the first one is, it is our goal to hire leaders. Not just leaders, but leaders who have the same philosophy that we do. Now, that doesn't mean that we all have the same skill set. It doesn't mean we all have the same lived experience or background. but it means that we all are pushing in the same direction with the same goals for the people that we serve. And so we want to then empower those leaders that we hire. We want to promote from within, just like Publix does. And we want to support our team. We have one-on-ones with all of our teammates, especially our management, each week, where we say, we end every call with, what can we do to support you? But that all starts with hiring folks who have the same vision, but ultimately hiring leaders. The second is offering consistent professional development opportunities. We want to, I love this term, Lisa Parlapiano talks about vitamins, these daily, weekly things that we can do, little language bits or work habit paragraphs or legislative updates or articles. These are all things we try to send out on virtually a daily basis, if not a few times a week. Trainings, webinars, workshops, certificate programs. We want our team to engage in all of these. If we could pay for higher education for everyone, we would do it. And that brings up a good point. If we had the money, at the end of the day, we want to pay our team as well as we possibly can. We are a nonprofit, so there's only so much we can do in that space. However, we want to continue to do as well as we can, better and better and better, providing not just salary, but benefits as well. But in lieu of being able to offer everyone what they're worth, which is well over 6 figures, what we'd like to be able to do is offer some of these benefits that I'm mentioning. And so joining a civic organization is a great professional development opportunity. We look for these on a regular basis. The next one, and this goes a little bit back to philosophy, but I'll pull it back, is the platinum rule. And so if the golden rule is to treat others the way that you would like to be treated, the platinum rule is to treat others the way that they have expressed that they would like to be treated. This is important because it adds agency. We are now listening to what people want. This is that open door policy. But it's not a passive open door policy. It's active. We want to go to you. We want to ask what your ideas are. We have subcommittees for this sort of thing, including a continuous improvement subcommittee that I'm not on, that I have nothing to do with other than, I guess it being a part of PASS. This is incredibly important for us to walk the walk and to listen to our team and for them to be empowered to help us grow as an organization. And finally, and perhaps most importantly, we think that the flexibility we offer really makes a huge difference. So we've been an organization for about 12 years, and we've always done remote work. We've always been remote, not just after COVID. So we had a bit of a head start there. This empowers our team to create their own schedules. It shows the trust that we have in them as leaders. It creates, we think, a great work-life balance. We only track paid time off. We only track PTO if someone were to, this is theoretical, if someone were to take advantage of it. We haven't found that to be the case. What we found is that if we give people opportunities to have a good work-life balance, take time off when they need to, they will work their tails off, and especially because they care about this mission. And so in conclusion of all of that, we want to treat our team as well as we possibly can. And we know that if we do, our team will treat the people we serve as well as they can. And that's the mission. We want to create a meaningful experience here at PASS. So we want to have dynamic work that you're proud to do with people that you're proud to do it with on behalf of people that you are incredibly proud to serve. That is our charge. That is our mission. Thank you again for this opportunity, Leanne. I will pass back.
Thank you so much, Jim. That was really awesome. That's the second time actually I've heard treat people the way they want to be treated as opposed to treat people the way you wanted to be treated. And I just love that. such a significant difference. So anyway, thank you so much, Jim. Next up, we have Mr. Keith Orkney. He is the CEO of EmployU. You all may have heard of them. He is going to be talking to us about what organizations can do to keep their employees feeling secure in a fairly insecure time. So Keith, please take it away.
Thank you so much, Leanne, and really appreciate this opportunity, and thank you to the Able Trust. Got a lot of great leaders on this call, so I think we're going to hear a lot of similar overlapping stuff. I asked Jim not to be so awesome. He did not listen, so I was hoping I could follow something that wasn't as great, but thank you so much. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about leadership. It's one of my favorite topics. It's what I do, so I've decided to study it continuously and try to get better at it. As a lot of people, as both Jim and Carrie both talked about, is, we're here to support our teams. And I often say, I'm support staff. I'm here to help everybody that works for us, everybody that supports our mission to do their jobs and have the tools and supports so that they can do those jobs effectively and efficiently. But, obviously, in reality, being a leader is a lot more than just support staff. To lead is to create an environment that people want and enjoy being a part of. We all want our companies to be great and be a positive experience, not just for those that we serve, but those that take this venture with us and carry out our mission that we all share. And, being a great leader, it takes work. It takes planning, it takes execution, and it takes tactful, intentional communication. And not every leader is that great at it. Not everybody has the experience yet. Some people just don't put in the effort, but it takes a lot. And there's a lot of ways that you can become a better leader. There's ways that you can learn how to do your job better. And, as a leader myself, I think it's important to adopt a learner mindset. The quest to always improve yourself, your company, your teams, each individual that works with you, it's never ending. And the people who decide to join you on this ride, they deserve and expect the effort of that leader. And there's lots of ways to get better. You can get an education in this topic, in this job. You can get a degree, a 2-4-year master. You can get a PhD in leadership. You don't have to go that far. There's certification programs. There's nonprofit leadership programs in a lot of the places around the state. And you're going to get a little something out of each one of those that you take. You can also hire a consultant or a mentor. I have one myself, and it's nice to be able to bounce things off somebody that's third party, that just has experience in leadership. There's actually a really great program called Catch a Fire that the Able Trust a few years back introduced us to, and we continued with it. And I've actually gotten a few different mentors on there. These are all, it's a really affordable price. It's not much per annual year. And there's professionals from around the world that can help you with any topic you can think of, and leadership is definitely one of them. And then there's also tons of books and my favorite audiobooks out there on the topic. I have one queued up in my car or my phone. I listen to it in the car all the time. And I'll share my go-to. My favorite is called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You may have heard of it by Stephen Covey. Lots of people have read it. I can tell you I read it at least 10, if not 20 times. And I get something new out of it each time. And this book talks about principles so that one can be a better leader, but also a better communicator and really a better person in general. And the first habit of the 7 habits is be proactive. And I think it's important as a leader that you're proactive versus being reactive all the time. Reactive means you're adjusting, you're making a change because something happened. A good leader forecasts what's going to happen and sets up their organization so that we're ready for it when it does. It's taking responsibility to create the organization that you want, the one that you envision, the one that you really want your company to look like. And you can do it. I can tell you, everybody can. I always give this quick, easy example that like Chick-fil-A and Burger King. Chick-fil-A is, most people will not, they will not disagree that the experience of going to Chick-fil-A is different when you go to Burger King. And I'm not trying to pick on Burger King. I love a Whopper just like everybody else, but the service that you receive, the facilities, the way that they are presented, it's different. And that all comes from the top, and everybody can do it. As a leader, you just have to learn how to do it. If you're a good leader, you got to decide that you're going to take and learn how to take action. So the nonprofit world, specifically our employment services sector that most of us, I believe, are probably in, it's got a lot of challenges. There's, the work itself is challenging. There's ups and downs. There's, we get our wins, which are great, and we really get high on those. But then there's also a lot of frustrations. There's disappointments that go along with it. And, the industry as a whole is vulnerable. To lots of outside factors. You got the economy, of course, that's a big one. A lot of us work with the government, and they have different policies and different things that they do that affect us. And, we most recently saw a pandemic that affected us all. So I think it's important to be proactive and try to creating a positive environment. And one of the fundamentals of that is setting goals. It's collecting data and recording what your inputs are to get your outputs, and then using that data to measure outcomes, get your metrics, get your key performance index, your KPIs, and define to your staff what success looks like, and then set attainable goals with that. Because without a target, your teams, they don't know what they're aiming for. They don't know what success looks like. So you set, this is the types of inputs that are going to get this data. Let's look at what you did, and here's your output. And then you review that data regularly, if it's monthly, quarterly, semi-annually. And that way you can look at, all right, here are some things that you can improve on your input to get more output, and you create a plan. And then you revisit the plan. And then when they reach their goals or when they make improvements, you celebrate it. Everybody's already talked about that already, is celebrating your wins is important, and celebrating a lot. Announcing wins, client stories. Man, we have life-changing results that come from our work. We have so many great wins. And if we don't celebrate them, people don't know that it happened. And those wins are what feed our passion. That's what helps us get through those frustrating times. And it helps create a much more positive environment. So I always encourage our staff to bring us client stories, and we reward them for doing so. And so that we can broadcast those out on our social media, on our marketing, because it's just internal communication. We're constantly trying to celebrate our wins. And then you can also create pretty easy way to create wins as well as set up a way for people to leave reviews. You can easily set up a Google review link, or put a link on your website, or just encourage people to email in their reviews on how well their employment specialists or whoever they were working with created a really great win for them, or maybe a business to be able to leave a review, and share and celebrate those. So creating wins and celebrating them is super important. But as much as you do that, there are going to be times of poor morale. That's inevitable. Team members are constantly seeking security and the feeling that everything is going to be okay, and that leadership has their back. And if that's not present, the morale of the teams, it can turn pretty quickly. So I refer back to the 7 habits of highly effective people, and habit 5 is seek first to understand before and then be understood. And they talk about paradigms. Each person sees the world differently. And you have to understand that, and understand that others' mindsets can be different than yours. Like, what you think is the issue or solution, it doesn't mean it is. It's different to different people. So it's important to listen and understand, ask questions, take the time to hear them out. People want to feel heard. Collect multiple points of view and put yourself in their shoes to try to seek to understand what their mindset is and how they're thinking. Because And you don't always have to respond right away. Like you can let them know, I'm going to collect some data here and we're going to come back with a response. And then put together a careful response. Consider what people have told you, make sure that you address the major underlying concerns. I typically share that response with like a sample, a few different people, make sure that I'm really hitting the mark, and then communicate that message. The unknown is a lot more scary than the news, even if the news isn't that great. And then, make sure that you make yourself available to take questions, your concerns, hear people out. A lot of times they just want to vent. So you can also, again, be proactive rather than reactive. There's ways to do that as well. Surveying your teams is a great idea. We do it 2 to 3 times a year. There's companies out there like the best nonprofits to work for, or just the best companies to work for. There's programs out there and they'll survey for free. You have to pay for the actual real responses, but they give you a good idea of what your culture is like. But you can also create your own survey through SurveyMonkey or Microsoft Forms, and just take the temperature of your staff every so often. Do they feel appreciated? Do they feel heard? Do they feel supported? Quite often, they will tell you what's important to them, if you ask. And it's better to have them tell you than to guess, what's going to fill their bucket. So, and then it's important to create a response and communicate, if there's any concerns that you need to address. And just make sure your teams know that they were heard and that you're acting on it. So intentional communication is so important. The longer you go without providing the message, the more that message is going to get created for you. So keep your teams in the know as much as you can. The unknown's a scary place. Leadership is not just telling people what to do. You got to listen. It's listening. They have concerns, they have needs, they got opinions. You got to hear them out. They're supporting. You got support provided to address their real needs, not just what you think it is. Leadership is motivating, and that's not just telling them that they're doing a good job, but providing a platform where they can prove it and celebrate it. And then also being transparent, honest, and consistent in your messaging. The peace of mind that you're in this with them and that you have their back, that will provide the security that they long for. That is my presentation. Thank you very much. Back to you, Leanne.
Perfect timing, Keith. Good job. Thank you so much. All right. So moving right along, we have Jackie Olson, the Director of Day Services, and Sharon Foster from the eMERGE School Administrator, both at McDonald Training Center. So ladies, powerhouse team, take it away.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and start. Jackie and I will be talking about hiring the right person and the referral process. I have spent over 40 years in education as a teacher. I always say I'm a teacher first, and as a special education administrator. And I'm just going to be honest, I haven't always hired the right person. Throughout my career, I have recruited teachers across the United States, and I did learn that I just don't have that magic wand. Maybe some of you do. I'd love to hear from you, but I don't. I wish I did. Here are some tips that I have used both in my educational career, in interviewing and hiring, and then also the little time I've spent here at McDonald Training Center. So number one, I'm always ensure that your job description is clear. You may need to take that time to review job expectations with the potential employee. It's just, sometimes it's just not clear. And sitting down with someone is important. Number two, look for potential employees who have empathy, compassion, and are kind. Well, how do I know, or any of us know, if that person, potential employee, has those attributes? It's a very difficult decision. It has to come from the heart. I take a look at the actual mission statement here at McDonald Training Center, and it kind of goes along with some of the things, Jim, you were talking about. But our mission is to empower people with disabilities to lead the lives they choose. And that helps me when I'm interviewing. I ask potential employees to give an example of how they would assist a person with disabilities in achieving either whatever goal they have, whether it's daily living, whether it is education, etc. It's important to take a look at the person's experience and training. Does the person that you're interviewing have the experience, the training in the field they're going to be teaching? Because that's what I am, a teacher, and I help support our educational team. And do they have the any type of experience working with those individuals with disabilities? For example, we were hiring a new IT instructor, and my colleague and I not only wanted to ensure that the person had worked with individuals with disabilities, but we needed to ensure that that person had taken a certification examination on the particular IT program that he or she was going to teach, and had taught that program. So that's real important. And of course, we wanted the IT instructor to have those attributes that are so important with working with our population, being compassionate, being able to display kindness to our students, to our clients. Communication skills are so important. Can the potential employee communicate clearly and effectively to our students? Sometimes our students' communication modes are different. So can he or she embrace the uniqueness of each student, of each client? Sometimes our students here in our Emerge program have different communication styles. And sometimes they may be on the spectrum and just do not want to communicate with our instructor or with myself or other fellow students. So we have to ensure that the person that is going to be hired can deal with, find other alternate ways to encourage that person to communicate. Another tip that I have is flexibility, problem solver. Again, Jim, you talked about the being flexible. And it's so important. I look for potential employees who can problem solve on the spot, handle the situation with grace. For example, if a coworker suddenly quits a job, I ask myself when I'm interviewing, will this potential employee embrace new challenges, such as taking on additional responsibilities until the vacant position is filled? That's just something we have to take a look at, because in this day and age, not only is it difficult to find a great teacher, it's difficult to find someone who's going to work in our nonprofit organizations. Collaboration and teamwork, brainstorming. We look for candidates who work well as a team, who bring those new ideas to us, and asking questions about when they worked as a team. How did they contribute to whatever project that is going on? And lastly, I think it's real important I know that finding the right fit for the position that you have can be difficult. But what we need to do is to ensure that we are hiring the right person. Again, I wish that I had that magic wand. So go ahead, Jackie, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sharon. Well, my name is Jackie Olson, and I've had 30 years experience in this field, and every single day is like a new day. So when you talk about that, all of the people that we have met and that thing, well, we're looking for referrals. So of course, Sam find somebody that says, hey, this person would be a great person for your organization. And if they're like you, Sam, if you really are saying that, yes, they're a great fit for us because you know so much about us, then of course we're going to, yes, send that person our way. So I've had an experience where I started in Plant City, and we had this little nursery. It was a horticulture nursery. We used to grow plants and that kind of thing. So some of the staff would bring their kids on in the summertime. It's great training for them. They were volunteering. So as the process goes and these kids get to know all of our individuals and they see what we do, well, that kind of puts a little spark in someone's mind that maybe they want to do that. So I remember, he was 15 years old. He grows up and he comes back and he wants to work in this field. So, I mean, I would definitely refer him because he has so much more experience than some of those kids coming out of college now, because he's been working in the field. He knows what it's like every single day. And it's just an awesome experience to see that you can grow and nurture somebody that would, want to be in this field, because it is a hard field. And, we just have to listen to our staff as well, because they may know someone who would make a great fit. I mean, we're always looking, like Sharon, some of the things that Sharon says, we're always looking for a kind person. And let's be honest, all of us are human and we don't see into someone's soul all the time, but we can tell when somebody's being kind, especially when they come face to face to one of our individuals. And are they going to give them the time and stop and say hi and be really genuine, or are they just going to walk right by? So in my experience, whenever I get a referral, I always try to follow up on that, because that person has kind of the same mindset. If they're really looking to coming to your company, your facility, they have that same mindset that you and I would have. That's who we want here, nurturing our individuals, training our individuals. I mean, we want to, I remember talking to Leanne in the beginning, and I said, it's like a seed. We want to start spreading our seeds all over the place, and then we're going to grow this beautiful garden, because with all of the good people that we have. But that doesn't start until we get one little seed from somebody that passes it on to that person, and then passes it on to that person. And then we do start growing this garden. So I think the referral process is the most beneficial for all of our companies. I think that a company should kind of have a little incentive program for our staff when they do refer somebody that fits all of our needs. I just think that the referral process is where we need to go in order for us to kind of, all of us, to grow and to keep our organizations growing and to be the best that we possibly can be. So Leanne's given me a little thing. So yes, and referrals, and remember, the seeds will grow the garden. So I think that every one of us speaking to each other, saying, hey, I have a great fit for you, Jim, and I have a great fit for Carrie and her organization. I mean, all of us, I think we just need to keep our eyes and ears open. And when you're out at a party, no matter where you're at, if you listen, if somebody says, oh, you work for McDonald Training Center, I know somebody who would be wonderful to work there, get their name, call them immediately. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Jackie. Really, I mean, spot on. You're absolutely right. The referral is one of the easier ways to hire quality candidates, rather than just picking a needle out of a haystack. And honestly, from Sharon and Jackie, the one thing that I just kept coming back to while you all were speaking was culture. If you have someone that works for you or that knows your culture, they are better equipped to bring in someone else that will fit into that culture. And actually, it reminded me of a podcast I listened to from Pat Lencioni, who was like, it was called like Stop Hiring the Wrong People. And he told a story about Southwest Airlines. They take their interviewee and they make them put on a uniform and walk around their headquarters in this ill-fitting uniform for their entire interview. And it's like half of a day. So for folks that are not, agile or willing to kind of go outside the box and have a little fun with the interview, that person's not going to fit into the culture. So I think it's important, just to piggyback on what you both were saying, that we can approach interviews a little bit differently. It doesn't need to be across the desk, me ask you questions and you give me some predetermined, pre-recorded answers. It can be a lot more fun than that if you want it to be. So other than that, we do have a couple questions. Carrie, there was one for you. I'm going to give you a minute to unmute. We had a question that was, what are some examples of how you acknowledge the folks, like those passerby acknowledgements of when folks are doing something, I don't know if it's extraordinary or, but you mentioned something to that effect, and this person had a question about what those details were.
Yes, so I have tied it back into kind of like our qualities that we look for, which are very broad, but actually a mentor of mine at a previous organization had written this document. Again, happy to share it about really what do we expect from our employees, because we expect a lot. We expect them, so our acronym is PRIDE, and we expect them to provide protection, respect, individuality, dignity, and then bring energy. And so I put it out to all of the team and say, if you see someone doing something that really fits into these categories, which is sometimes tough to balance for us, we do have some obligation to protect and provide safety and security, but at the same time, individuality. So I always kind of tie it back to those things. This year we did one called Face of the Arc, and it was just people that we felt like represented us well in the community, whether that be with family members, the front desk, whatnot. We did a advocacy award that was really someone who had kind of gone to bat for someone we support. But I do kind of tie it back into those values to keep, the same messaging going as we build culture.
Yeah, so some consistency there. I like that. Okay, so we have less time than I thought we did. So no more questions, unfortunately. But Justin, if you can throw that PowerPoint back up, those slides. We do have just a couple more housekeeping items really, really quickly for everyone. If you'd like to learn more about the Able Trust, who we are, what we do, what we have going on, you are invited to get involved. We have a webinar happening on November 1st at 2:00, talking all about employee resource groups. And then we also have a toolkit online for our DEAM celebration. And then, of course, my personal plug is we have a job development workshop happening next week on Monday and Tuesday. It is not too late. We have not very many, but we do have a couple of seats left. So if you would like to register, please take a picture of that QR code. We would love to see you there. It is in Tampa, and it is at USF. And best of all, it is free. So we hope to see you there. Next one for me, Justin. And then because our panelists are so awesome, they have allowed me to publicize their contact information. Like to take a photo of this one. We will leave it up for a moment. If you have questions that weren't answered, or if you come up with questions later about any of the topics, please take a picture of this and contact them. They are definitely a wealth of knowledge, each and every one of them. And then Justin, go to the next one for me. And then again, thanks so much to our sponsors. We could not do this without you. Special shout out to Publix and Miss Debbie Savage for jumping on this morning. We appreciate you so much. And I believe that is all we have for you. And we are right on time. Thank you everyone for joining us. We will see you next year.
Thank you.
Thank you.